Dr. Naomi Forrester-Soto is a virologist and a reader in vector biology at Keele University in the UK. Doctor, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. How is monkeypox usually spread?
Yeah, monkeypox is usually spread by close contact rather than as COVID is with aerosol. So we would expect that you have to be in really close contact with someone who has monkeypox to actually catch it. So in that respect, it's a lot easier to control than COVID was.
Okay, hold on, sorry. Even if you have to be really close and you say like COVID, in other words, it passes through the air, it's not a question of fomites and touching things?
It is more touching things. So it's that, well, all viruses are spread a little bit by both aerosol and touching, but for monkeypox, it is primarily through fomites and touching, and that really close contact that is required to be to initiate spread.
Okay, well, how worried are you about the recent spread outside of the parts of Africa where it's endemic?
I'd say it's very unusual. It is always concerning when we see a virus outside of its natural habitat, but we do know that at least some of those cases are a result, at least in the UK, of people coming from places where we would expect monkeypox to be. So if that's the case, then maybe what we're seeing is just a little bit more local spread, but that is very unusual. So it's a cause for some concern, but certainly not alarm at the moment.
The WHO is holding a meeting. Amongst other things it's going to discuss in the next few hours at some stage on Friday is this spread of monkeypox. Is that normal for a disease like this, or does it indicate that the WHO is concerned?
I would say that there is certainly work to be done to understand how we've seen this much transmission in this many countries. But again, I'd like to emphasize that it's much easier to control. It spreads much less quickly. So I think, control measures tend to work very well with diseases like monkeypox. And we do also have a vaccine against it. So I think the World Health Organization is just pivoting to try and make sure that we're not going to see it spread more than it already has.
What about its history? Does that help us to understand exactly what it might do in terms of as it spreads, or how people might be able to deal with it? Okay, sure, the smallpox vaccine, 85% effective, and it generally doesn't kill more than maybe 3 to 5% of people who get it. But does its history help us to understand how we would go about dealing with it?
Yeah, so, monkeypox is one of those diseases that kind of took a back seat to smallpox because smallpox was so prevalent in the population. And actually, we think that we will see an increase in the, so it's really interesting, when they actually eliminated smallpox and the vaccine sort of wore off in those areas where there is smallpox, we saw an increase in monkeypox, simply because people weren't either being exposed to smallpox and they're having some sort of cross protection, or then not being vaccinated and then having some protection. So we may be starting to see just that spread may be a result of increased or a reduction in residual immunity in certain parts of the population, but it is very unusual. And so certainly it's something we do need to look at more closely. Thankfully, the symptoms are quite obvious, so it is much easier to identify that people have it.
Yeah, you know what, really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, Doctor, because if you recall the very, very early days of the coronavirus, the way news organizations were reporting some kind of respiratory illness, and then lo and behold, what did it become? COVID-19, this international pandemic. Really appreciate it. Dr. Naomi Forrester-Soto.